The Iron Wheel bar was alive that night. The kind of Friday where the air smelled of spilled whiskey, burning cigarettes, and old rock music that rattled the glass bottles behind the counter. Motorcycles lined the parking lot outside, chrome shining under the dim streetlight. Inside, rough laughter echoed through the haze of smoke as a dozen bikers celebrated the end of another long week. At the far corner, Rex Donovan, a broad-shouldered man in a black leather jacket, sat hunched over a glass of bourbon. His tattoos snaked down both arms, skulls, wings, and a faded insignia of an eagle clutching a sword. The kind of man who didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. He watched the crowd in silence. A fight had almost broken out earlier, nothing new for the Iron Wheel. But Rex wasn't in the mood for chaos tonight. He just wanted to drink and forget. Across the room, Lena, the waitress, moved quietly between tables. She was young, maybe mid-20s, but her tired eyes told a different story. Her hair was tied in a messy ponytail, and though she smiled at every customer, there was a sadness behind that smile. The kind only life could carve into someone's soul. "Hey, sweetheart. Another round here?" one of the bikers shouted. Lena nodded politely, weaving her way through the crowd with a tray full of drinks. She stopped at Rex's table last. "You need another, sir?" she asked softly. Rex looked up from his drink. "Make it strong," he said, voice low and gravelly. As she turned to pour, someone bumped into her from behind, a drunk biker staggering toward the jukebox. The tray tilted, beer spilled, and in an instant, the golden liquid splashed across Rex's jacket. The music stopped. Conversations froze. Every biker turned toward the sound of the falling glass. Rex stood slowly, his chair scraping against the wooden floor. The room seemed to shrink as he towered over her. "You just ruined my jacket," he said, his voice calm. Too calm. I'm sorry," Lena stammered, panic in her voice. "It was an accident, I didn't—" The crowd chuckled, waiting for the explosion. Some leaned forward, others smirked, whispering bets about what Rex might do next. But as his dark eyes locked on hers, something flickered, a hesitation, a memory, maybe even recognition. No one noticed that, not yet. The bar held its breath, waiting for the storm that was about to break. Rex's hand shot out, gripping Lena's wrist before she could step away. The laughter around the bar died down instantly. The crowd loved a good scene, but even they could feel the tension rippling through the air. "You think sorry fixes everything?" Rex growled, his voice low and dangerous. His knuckles were white, veins bulging under his tattooed skin. I didn't mean to," Lena whispered, eyes wide, trying to free herself. Rex yanked her closer, his breath hot with whiskey. The tray slipped from her other hand, crashing to the floor, shattering glass and sending droplets of beer across the room, and then it happened. As Lena pulled back sharply, the fabric of her thin blue uniform shirt gave way with a harsh, tearing sound. The right sleeve ripped open, exposing her upper arm. The bar froze. The jukebox hummed quietly in the background, but no one spoke. Rex blinked, his anger flickering into confusion. His gaze fell on her bare shoulder, and what he saw made his heart stop. It wasn't a bruise, it wasn't a tattoo. It was an embroidered patch, old and faded, carefully stitched onto the inner lining of her shirt. A screaming eagle insignia, black and gold, the unmistakable mark of the 101st Airborne Division. The same symbol that Rex carried, inked into his own skin. His grip loosened instantly. Where did you get that?" he asked, his tone changing from rage to disbelief. Lena stepped back, her breath trembling. Her eyes darted from face to face, every biker watching, silent and still. "It belonged to my brother," she said softly, her voice shaking. "He served with them before he died." The words hit Rex like a gut punch. His body went rigid. He took a step back, shaking his head. "Your brother was with the 101st?" She nodded slowly. "Daniel Carter. Sergeant Daniel Carter." The name echoed in Rex's head like a gunshot. The noise of the bar faded into nothing. All he could hear was his own heartbeat. He stumbled back into his chair, hands trembling. "Daniel?" he murmured. "No way." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "You knew him?" Rex didn't answer right away. His eyes were glassy, distant, seeing not the bar, but a battlefield long gone. Around them, the bikers who had been laughing moments ago stood frozen, exchanging uneasy glances. No one knew what to say. The tension that once felt violent now felt sacred, like the walls themselves held their breath, waiting for Rex's next word. Rex's face drained of color. His jaw tightened as his mind struggled to process what he'd just heard. The chaos inside the bar dissolved into silence. No laughter, no whispers, not even the clinking of a bottle. Only the low hum of the jukebox filled the air, playing a song that suddenly felt hauntingly distant. He swallowed hard, his voice cracking. What was his name?" Lena hesitated, her eyes glistening. "Daniel Carter," she whispered. The moment the name left her lips, Rex froze. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor, but he didn't even flinch. It was as if time had stopped. His eyes widened, his breathing grew shallow, and his knees began to shake. The bar fell completely silent. Then, slowly, Rex sank to the floor, his head bowed. "Daniel," he breathed, barely audible. "Daniel saved my life." Lena stared, stunned. "What?" Rex's voice trembled as the memories came flooding back. Flashes of desert heat, gunfire, the smell of smoke and blood. "We were ambushed." "In Kandahar," he said quietly. "A convoy went up in flames. I was trapped inside a Humvee, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Everyone thought I was done for." He looked up at her, eyes glassy with tears. "And then your brother, Daniel, ran straight into the fire. He pulled me out with his bare hands. He got me to the medic before the truck exploded." Lena's hand went to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But he didn't make it out," Rex said, his voice breaking. "The second explosion took him. I never even got to thank him. I didn't even know his sister was still out there." The words hit the room like a punch. The bikers who had been laughing minutes ago now stood silent, heads lowered, the weight of guilt heavy in the air. Rex looked at Lena again, really looked at her. Not as the clumsy waitress who'd spilled his drink, but as the sister of a man who had given his life for him. "I've spent years drinking, fighting, trying to forget," Rex murmured. "But every night, I still see his face. That same look he had before he ran back into the flames." Lena stepped closer, tears streaking her cheeks. "He would have been glad you made it," she said softly. Rex shook his head. "No, he'd want me to live like it meant something. And here I am, acting like a fool." No one spoke. Even the toughest biker in the room had his eyes down, ashamed of the laughter and the cruelty from earlier. In that silence, something shifted. Anger turned to grief, and grief turned to respect. For a long, heavy moment, no one moved. The air in the iron wheel bar hung thick with emotion, the kind that silences even the loudest souls. Every biker, every bystander, just stood there, unsure of what to do after witnessing the storm of truth that had just passed through the room. Rex remained on one knee, staring at the floor, his chest rising and falling with quiet regret. He wiped his face roughly, then stood, slower this time. His entire posture changed. The fire in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by something softer, heavier. Without a word, he reached behind him, pulled off his black leather jacket, and gently draped it over Lena's torn shirt. The crowd watched as he tucked it carefully around her shoulders, his large hands trembling slightly. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low and broken. "For what I did. For everything." Lena looked up at him through tear-streaked eyes. Her lip quivered, but she managed a sad, understanding smile. "You just did what war already tried to do," she said quietly. "Break me." Rex looked away, guilt tightening his jaw. "But he wouldn't want that," Lena added, her voice steadier now. "My brother always said, pain only wins when we stop fighting." Rex's throat tightened. He nodded slowly. "He was braver than any of us." He reached for his half-empty glass and lifted it high. His voice carried through the silent room, deep and rough, but filled with conviction. "To Daniel Carter," he said, every word deliberate. Lena looked around, her eyes glistening. Then, one by one, the bikers raised their glasses too. "To Daniel," they echoed softly. A quiet chorus of respect filling the bar. For a few moments, no one drank. They just stood there, glasses raised, heads bowed, united by the memory of a man they'd never met, but now would never forget. The jukebox kept playing, its soft melody wrapping around the room like a prayer. The neon lights flickered against the tears on Lena's cheeks, and Rex stood beside her. No longer a stranger, but a man bound by gratitude and guilt. When they finally sat down, the bar returned to life, but not the same kind of life it had before. The laughter that followed was gentler, the voices softer. No one fought, no one cursed, and no one disrespected the waitress again. In the quiet that settled over them, the Iron Wheel Bar became something rare that night, a place of peace. And at its heart stood a biker who finally found redemption, and a sister who reminded him what it meant to still be human.